Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
This
Hey, buddy.
is all we are expecting. So I'm going to call us to order at. I'm going to wait 5 seconds.
3,
7 seconds.
2,
Morning.
1.
Now I'm waiting for call us to order at 10:34 a.m. And just from reading an excerpt from the latest Robert's Rules, I'm going to have a roll call to establish quorum. I am present, Alan Thompson, Councilmember Dixon,
Present.
Councilmember Foe,
Present.
Councilmember Lingua,
Present.
Council members Henry, Richardson, and Mayers are not in attendance. We do have a quorum of 4 members of the council. Okay, members of the council, you have an agenda before you. It's a pretty short agenda. Are there any changes required to the agenda? I'm going to, yes, sir.
None here. No changes required from me.
I was about to take silence as a lack of changes. So anyway, hearing no changes required, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made by Councilmember Foe, seconded by Councilmember Lingua. Is there any discussion of the agenda? Okay, are there any public comments? Are there any members of the public here at all? Does not look like there are, according to the list. So any public comments just in case? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Dixon.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Council members Henry, Richardson, and Mayers are all not in attendance. I abstain. The motion passes 3-0-1. First item on the agenda is a presentation on the update on the CARES Act funding by Development Services Director Ryan Shelton and Finance Manager Gentry Jones. Please begin.
And Mr. Mayor, I'm going to give a brief introductory comment or two. First, I want to thank the mayor and council for making time on a Saturday morning to discuss this very important program and town staff's efforts to keep us pointing in a good direction. The other thing I'd like to recognize is the good work of the staff team in one, being prepared with several backup plans, and 2, being able to initiate and pivot relatively quickly to make sure that at the end of the day, all of the town's allotment of CARES Act funding will be spent, and will be spent within the timeframes given by the program. So there's no concern that we can make a spending test. We will make a spending test. And so I just want to acknowledge the good work of the staff team. And the memo kind of outlines what we've been experiencing. And I've shared some of these things with the mayor along the way as I've, along with the staff team, attempted to push the county's rental program forward. So with that, Mr. Shelton, would you like to take over from this point?
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. And thank you everybody for joining us this morning. So a brief update. We've been speaking about the CARES Act at a number of meetings, and recently we've learned from the Department of Social Services that the plan that we had to work with them for a emergency rental assistance program, and to piggyback off of their program, that they no longer expect us to be able to expend the $281,000 that we had previously discussed back when we had made this plan in May. They told us on November 17th, this past Tuesday, that it's more likely that the expenditures will not exceed $100,000, which is obviously a big hit. It's $180,000 less than what we had planned. So in response to this, staff has been working with the county's management and budget division to reallocate our budget and to make it more to use expenditures that we've already used that we had not previously planned on having reimbursed by the CARES Act funds. So we have other expenditures like other food assistance programs and other PPE purchases that we had not previously planned on seeking reimbursement from because we had thought that so much of this would be spent on the emergency rent relief. And so we have, Gentry and I have worked with the county to establish a new proposed budget, and they have approved that as of yesterday. That approved budget includes reducing the emergency assistance rental relief expectations to 100,000 and increasing our budget for food assistance and PPE purchases. Because of the emergency rental relief hiccups, and I would just say we're not 100% certain that we will reach that $100,000. The staff has conducted or produced a plan B of sorts to produce a small business assistance program to help our small businesses right now as we enter what appears to be another COVID pandemic related spike and potential shutdowns. So we have produced a small business assistance grant program, and we will use whatever funds are remaining from the emergency rent relief program that the county Department of Social Services does not spend from that $100,000, and we'll be able to spend it on our businesses in town. The county gave a number of reasons for why they were not able to meet the $281,000 budget that had previously been discussed. They said that Park Tanglewood, for example, was a low-income tax credit property, and they would be applying for a different state program and they wouldn't be able to apply for both the county and the state program. It sounds like a lot of the tenants of these apartment and just for these renters are making their rental payments, but perhaps they are relying very heavily on food assistance programs. And so in anticipation for that, we've increased our direct grocery benefit program to provide additional food options for these residents based on what the Department of Social Services has told us. And yes, so we have developed our small business assistance grant program to help with the businesses, and it's been a long week.
Agreed.
So the program, it's going to be tailored for rent and utility payments to assist small businesses. And staff conducted a brief needs assessment, if you will. And so we had Ms. Barnes's staff reach out to, I believe it's about 13 or 14 businesses, just kind of the informal survey. Where are you with rent? Where are you with utility payments? And so we're able to establish a need, that there's a need for this type of assistance. And overall, in looking at the allocation of funds, we've always been outwardly looking. And that's the approach that the mayor and council took when you adopted the Partners in Economic Recovery programs back in March. It's always been looking outward to the community. So the other expenses that Ryan mentioned that we have, we're kind of calling it our secret backup plan, if you will, is that we are able to draw down funds for staff time. So we've been tracking every 15 minutes that it takes a police officer to wipe their cruiser down. We've been tracking that time since March. And so we actually, just in direct COVID related staff time, we have over $125,000 that's eligible to draw. So if any of these programs fall short in expenditures, we're able to then increase the amount, because we have some in the plan. We're able to increase the amount in the staff expense area that we can draw. And if we end up having to go above the initial amount that we had budgeted for that, which is only 20,000. So if we had to draw a total of $100 and some thousand, we can. But then we would take that and put it into the Economic Development Fund to continue to fund outwardly focused programs. Because the staff expenses, it's good to think of those as sunk cost. We've spent that money. It was budgeted money, it's spent. And we were going to spend it anyway, but it is eligible for reimbursement. So if we have to, we'll increase that line item. We'll continue to be fluid in this because we're relying on the performance of others. And but at the end of the day, be assured we can make the draws to draw down all the funds, put it back in the Economic Development Fund, and continue programs such as the Farmers Market Dollar Program or other food-related programs in the months ahead. So there's options here for moving the budget around so we make sure we're hitting the federal mandated targets. But there does seem to be a unique need for rental and utility assistance for the businesses. So we just wanted to add that one extra program to give us additional flexibility. And we would need your approval to create that new program because it's standing up a new program. It's simply not adjusting numbers within established programs.
Is that the conclusion of the presentation, or is Mr. Jones going to speak to anything?
Mr. Jones is here to talk about money on any questions that you may have. Gentry, can you share how much we've drawn to date?
Sure. We're currently at
I know it's 160 something.
yeah, 168,000.
So we've currently have drawn that. And if you add that to what was supposed to be spent by the rental program, all the funds would be gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so the staff have been doing what we set out to do here, and then got this curveball. And so with that, Mr. Mayor, we're here to answer any questions that you or the council members may have.
Okay, I'm going to make a few comments and then reach out to the council. Just like to echo Mr. Lustician, your thanks to the staff. I am appreciative and amazed that in 4 days from finding out the news that this program was not going to be able to spend as much money, that you were able to turn and to generate a new program and talk to the businesses and determine exactly what needed to happen in there. This is amazing. It is community focused, and it's really what a small town like Riverdale Park is supposed to do. We're supposed to look out for the needs of our residents, our resident businesses, and this is fantastic work. And I know all too well from the hours that I see the emails flying around that you guys have been putting in an enormous amount of work. And I want to say that I personally appreciate it. I believe the other members of the council do, and I'm certain that the residents of the town appreciate it. So a few more comments. It's not listed in memo under the town spending plan, under the background, but the farmer's market food assistance has of course been a major expenditure, and will continue to be a major expenditure, I believe, for many months to come. We need to look at extending that program. There is still a tremendous need. We did originally fund it from rainy day funds in the town's budget, and so we may extend it using those rainy day funds if there is not continued assistance from the federal government. But I just wanted to point out that we have spent a good bit to do that. And then just to clarify, the plan is to spend under this new program to spend the money on continued food assistance programs and on the business rental and utility assistance program to exhaust at least most of the CARES Act funding, and the use of the PPE and time spent needs would be as a backup plan only.
Primarily, I'll clarify one or two things there. So as I believe you all know, we had utilized a grant referenced the census to purchase masks and for members of our low to moderate income areas of town. We have now in the plan, we're going to purchase 6,000 masks and just distribute those primarily to our low to moderate income residents, along with some hand sanitizer. So it's not just PPE for staff, but PPE for our residents.
Okay.
The expansion of the food program is building on the census, if you will, to use that word again, but in a different context, the census that we have of participants in the farmers market dollar program to give them additional assistance within the timeline. So that would be in the form of a gift card. And that those two efforts together will draw down a significant portion of funds that are not being utilized for the rental assistance. So the one thing we heard clearly from DSS and Ryan had mentioned was that in their interviews with tenants, they're hearing, well, I paid my rent, but I don't have money for food. And so thus the effort to try to meet that need by ramping up the food assistance.
Okay, thank you. Council members, do you have any questions or comments on we're still in the report here, I believe, correct?
Yes, sir.
I do, Mr. Mayor.
Please go ahead.
I just saw the gift cards for food program, and I was just wondering if somebody from staff could explain what our outreach is into our community to make sure that they're utilizing this.
Ms. Barnes, do you want to take that?
Certainly. We have been hearing from our outreach to through the rental program and through even our business program that folks need assistance still with food. So the plan is to provide the folks that are already getting our farmers market dollars. So that's a pool of residents that we know need assistance. We will be providing them with an additional voucher to a business here in town where they can get groceries for dry goods, like canned goods and dried goods, and can stock up for the coming spike, I guess, in the pandemic and perhaps even lockdowns. So we'll be focusing on the residents that we already know need assistance. Now, as the rental applications come in, so the applications that we're getting from the county for rent relief, we'll be cross-referencing those with the list of residents we already have getting the Farmers Market Dollars program or participating in that program to make sure that we're giving everyone as much help as we possibly can when it comes to food assistance.
And Ms. Barnes, how many families are we currently assisting?
Sure, we have 204 families right now that are currently getting the Farmers Market Dollars program, which is $25 vouchers per week to the farmers market. The plan is to provide them with an additional $250. It will come in the form of a gift certificate, likely from Mega Mart, which is a local grocery store here in town. And we've done this in the past, and I feel like this will be a really easy way for us to get some real direct assistance to our residents. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, we're
Thank you.
also, the pool of residents also comes through Riverdale Elementary School. So we've been working with the social worker there to really connect the families in the greatest need to our program.
So the outreach is in several different directions to try to find those with the highest need in town.
Absolutely.
Okay, are
And
there
Mr.
additional council questions on the report?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Please.
First up, I had a question. Well, pardon me. First off, I concur with the mayor regarding staff's efforts over the past 4 days, let alone throughout this, in terms of being able to pivot on this information that we were finally able to obtain from county. Hats off to you all. My question is, one being, does staff feel that the NTE projection of expenditures of $100,000, is that accurate?
That's what they're telling us. And what Ryan touched on was we want to stand up other programs or this other program and expand the food. So if need be, it's already in place and we can spend down even more outwardly. And so if they fall short on their projections, we will continue to ramp up the existing programs. And if you all approve this business program, that would be included in there as well.
Okay. If their
And
projection is short, pardon me, if their projection is short, we would still be able to draw funds from that. Is that correct?
yes, sir. So if their projection, let's say for the sake of discussion, we've only received, I believe it's 3 completed applications from the county, approved applications, totaling under $5,000. So let's say they give us no more. We have in place with these other programs and with the ability to draw additional funds for the staff time, we will be able to draw all $441,000 of the CARES Act funding.
Okay.
I'm confident in that. And what the staff plan is, any funds that we draw that have not been outwardly spent, we would channel those to the Economic Development Fund that would then give the council the opportunity to say, continue the farmers market program, ramp up this other program. So even though it would be an inwardly spent reimbursement, it could then be programmed outwardly to the community.
Okay. The information you just shared with me is leading me to another question regarding, did DSS provide the town with information on total number of applications from the town? I mean, you said that they had 3 approved from the town, which I don't know if that's
Yes.
a total.
Well, and
please.
yes, sir. So, and Ryan, jump in here. When I first talked with DSS back in June, they said there's such a great need. We'll go through this 281,000 in a matter of weeks. Well, weeks turned into months. In August, after some pushing, Ryan got a hold of a spreadsheet that they had on applications. At the time, they had 39 applications. And it's from those 39 that produced the few approved applications. DSS relaunched their program a number of weeks ago, and the relaunch was targeted to landlords. And so they reached out to landlords and then found out the the amount that may be needed, especially in the larger buildings, to assist tenants.
Right.
So that's when DSS made the determination that Park Tanglewood would be better assisted by the state program for low-income housing tax credit properties. So it's our understanding that residents in Park Tanglewood will be, the landlord will be receiving rents on the arrears of tenants in Park Tanglewood through this special program designed just for those types of properties. And so of the remaining properties, if every tenant who is behind filled out the tenant paperwork, that's how I think the county's coming up with their projection of $100,000. But what we have heard from the various representatives at the Department of Social Services, to include their director and chief of staff, they're seeing that some tenants simply are not cooperating in completing the paperwork, and they're seeing that across the county. I did ask for in writing, and I have not received a response to this request of various things that they told us in phone conversations. I will share here that they initially reported 7,300 applications thereabout across the county.
Mm-hmm.
And it is my understanding from more than one phone call or phone conversation that from that initial pool, they're looking at 700 and some that were actually followed through and approved. That was in the first launch of the program.
So that's less than 10%.
Correct, sir. It's a 90% failure rate. And so I don't know what type of numbers they're getting out of the relaunch of their program that started a few weeks ago. But all that will become very public at end of December, when the county has to report on how much money they've expended in their rental assistance program.
And I would just like to reiterate that the county really did believe that they were going to spend our $281,000 originally very quickly, because when they received those initial $7,000 in their first phase of applications, they were so concerned about being overwhelmed by applications. That's when they shut down. They were no longer accepting applications in that first phase. It was only later and more recently that they were talking about a second phase, because they had seen the failure rate and realized that they weren't going to go through the money as fast as they thought they were.
That's a good point.
And Ryan, while you're there, are those, because you had mentioned, you said that there were hiccups, meaning more than one, and I would take it that was one of them.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Are there others?
Sorry, yes.
Are there other hiccups that staff had to incur through the county?
I've been told on numerous occasions that we will receive applications, only to not have received them yet. So I would consider that another hiccup.
Receiving applications from the county?
Completed applications that we would be able to then reimburse landlords from.
Okay. And we weren't, and those just weren't, and that's part of the non-cooperation, or the people just not partaking in the program, correct?
Yes, I would say so.
Okay.
So Councilman Lingua, if I can just speak up momentarily.
Sure.
I've been regularly discussing this program with the town manager in my weekly meetings, and the town staff has been asking very pointed questions about the status of the applications and when they're going to receive them and when they can move. And in fact, in late September, early October, the town manager told me that staff was prepared to take over the program from the county, just because despite the pointed questions and consistent questions, they'd not been receiving the information. And they were assured by the county, even during October, that the applications would be coming and the money would be readily spent. And it wasn't until mid-November. So I would say that if you want to talk about hiccups, that essentially every time that the county said, yeah, it's coming, it should be there in a couple of weeks, I would call each of those a hiccup. And there were a lot of them. So
And
Is
for
that-
reference, the first
I would-
application we received
I would-
this
I
week.
would say, Mr. Shelton, that's a polite way of putting it. Okay. That's really all I had. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
okay, are there any additional questions or can we move on in the agenda?
I just want to make sure I'm understanding clearly what occurred and what we're going to do. So in a quick summation, there was originally 481,000 allotted to the town.
441.
441, sorry, allotted to the town. Under the CARES Act, 281 of that would be allocated for emergency rental assistance. And
Yes.
to date, the projection is that of that 281, we're looking at only using about 100,000 of the
Yes, ma'am.
281, and that's based on a variety of reasons. Main factors are the three that you guys highlight in the memo. And so what the town staff has proposed is pivoting, and are we using the other 181, that the shortfall, are we turning that into pushing that into the business assistance program?
No, not in total, ma'am.
Okay. Where I'm-
Yes. So what we've done to cover that other 181, or to make sure that's expended, is we're expanding our food programs. So we've heard from DSS that one of the things that they're hearing from tenants is that we've paid our rent, but we're having a hard time feeding our families. So we are expanding the food program, and we're being fluid in the budget. But right now, we're looking at putting an extra $60,000 into food. We're also expanding PPE acquisitions to not just be for staff, but to take $30,000. And that $30,000 will buy 6,000 masks and as well as hand sanitizer to be distributed largely in our low to mod income housing communities. So those two things together were 90,000 of the 180. That doesn't necessarily mean there's 90 for the business program. All the numbers are fluid. In designing our projections, we're looking at more like maybe 60,000 goes to the business. But we'll be making last minute adjustments depending on the applications received. If all of a sudden the county says, hey, we found 40 families that are really behind on their rent, then staff are going to shift those funds within the approved programs. So right now, these are all projections.
Got it. But ultimately, we believe that we will be able to find a way to spend the 441 that was allotted.
Yes, ma'am. And our backup plan is to draw down the staff time that's been used in direct response to COVID. The updated guidance from US Treasury actually says you can pay regular salaries for first responders. So if we absolutely didn't have enough, we could draw just from our week or biweekly payroll. So I have no doubt we'll make the 441. But if we have to do that, that's where it is staff's position. We would take that reimbursement and not just absorb it into the general fund dollars, but we would put it back in the economic development fund to continue the outward approach that the council set back in March.
Got it.
So I'm just going to add one comment that my work communicating with the Greater Riverdale Cares group about which provides food assistance is that the food need is immense in that community. It actually confirms the information received from DSS and talking to the residents that there is a tremendous need for food, and the various programs that were in place early on have been ramping down over several months. I think there's a little bump right now because of the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday and the holidays, but I think that there is tremendous food need out there. Okay.
If I
I
may,
think,
two
yes.
follow-up questions.
Mhm.
Thank you. Following up on Councilmember Dixon's question, how is the federal government defining salary payment towards first responders?
Right now, sir, very broadly.
Okay. Because
a
as
new-
you
Go ahead,
know,
sir.
like the many facets of what's going into paying benefits for employees, and my question is is that covered in the entirety with what the federal government will allow?
Yes, sir. Initially, they were only allowing funds directly related to COVID. So I mentioned the police officers wiping down their cruiser
Right.
at least twice a day and the 15 minutes it takes for that. That was initially allowed. What they're now saying is we could simply say we have first responders, we have a police department, so we want to pay payroll for the police department for 2 months and draw down the full 441. And that's allowed per the county, the county's interpretation of the U.S. Treasury guidance. So I don't think we have to go there. I think we'll be fine. If anything, we may have to draw a little bit of the expenditures that we have for the extra things, such as wiping down the cruisers several times a day.
Okay. Does that also include DPW's work in terms of keeping areas cleaned and wiped down? in the
It does
doesn't.
not.
Okay,
It does not. Which is a little interesting to me. If we hire a third party to clean, for example, we've had the police department cleaned with an electrostatic sanitizer going through the buildings, all the offices and that. That's quite expensive. So I think we've spent like $8,000 in that type of cleaning. That is an eligible expense.
Okay.
If DPW were to perform the same function, the materials used would be eligible, but not their time.
Okay. Interesting. And the
It's
second
a
question
federal
is-
program, sir.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, there's always interesting nuances.
could be here all day about them, about how they set up things. Anyway, my other question was, is there a spreadsheet available in terms of the time tracked and everything for review?
Time tracked of staff?
Well, as you said, you were keeping track of
the eligible
Yes.
expenses.
related activities.
Yes. So
what and when it was performed and for how long.
I know we have records of that that can survive audit scrutiny.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's all. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Of course. Are there any more comments, or can we move on the agenda? There's enough silence. I'm going to say let's move on. Next item on the agenda is public comments. Are any members of the public present who wish to comment? Looking at the list, unless there's someone named director who has a named director, then I think we have no members of the public in attendance. So let's move on to the legislative action item, which is resolution 2020-R21. May I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made by Councilmember Lingua, seconded by Councilmember Dixon to adopt Resolution 2020-R-21. We've had a lot of discussion about what this resolution is about, so now here's the text of it. Are there any questions or comments from the council or any members of the public who may have arrived recently? Wow, guess we had our full discussion. Are we
Well,
ready to vote?
actually, Mr. Mayor, one question I do have of staff on this, if I may. The sunsetting of December 15th, 2020. Is there a contingency being developed to expand it if need be?
Ryan and Gentry, if you may, if it's all right, I'll address this. The CARES Act funding expires at the end of December.
Correct.
And we have to have all of our reporting in by December 15th. Thus
Okay.
the date of the 15th.
Oh, that's what the 15th. All right.
And because it's funded by the CARES Act.
Okay.
If we identify other funding sources, we would come back to the council and say, we have additional funds. We'd like to fund this program from these other funds.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, is there any additional questions or comments on the resolution? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Motion to adopt resolution 2020-R-21. Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
Councilmember Faux,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Hi.
Just in case they have arrived, is Councilmember Henry in attendance? No response. Is Councilmember Richardson in attendance? No response. Is Councilmember Mayers in attendance? No response. I will vote aye, since this is a pseudo financial matter, just to be on the safe side. The motion passes 401. Resolution 2020-R-21 is adopted. Next item on the agenda is new business. Are there any items of new business? Hearing none, the next item on the agenda is unfinished business. Are there any items of unfinished business? The last item on the agenda is adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
I'm going to give the motion to Councilmember Faux, the second to Councilmember Dixon. Roll call vote. Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
Councilmember Faux,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Hi.
and I abstain. The motion passes 301. We are adjourned at 11:16 a.m. Thank you again to staff for scheduling the meeting and for the very hard work you've put in this week. Ryan, please go take a nap.
Get some rest.
Yes.
Yeah, Ryan, get some rest, man.
And it's actually his birthday weekend. So